I'm Nan McGee with ChristSong Ministries Incorporated. ChristSong is a full-time prison ministry, and since 2010, me and Bobby McGee have been traveling across the country from prison to prison, sharing hope. Because my husband Bobby was incarcerated for a total of 22 years, the prisoners hear him. They relate to him, and they believe him. He can talk to them in a way that a well-meaning pastor can't. Romans 8:28 says, "And we know that all things work together for good to them that love God, to them who are called according to his purpose." God uses Bobby's troubled past for his purpose. We have averaged 120 prison services a year in 43 states, sharing the gospel of Christ. However, we're getting older. I once heard a speaker say, "If your ministry dies when you do, it wasn't a ministry, it was a hobby." We have dedicated our lives to this ministry, and it's our heart's desire that it continues long after we're gone. We want to leave a legacy. In 2010, Bobby had a vision for a place called the Soldeir's Lair. It would be a residential place, a place of discipleship. It would be home for men who are grounded in the Word of God, some who've graduated Bible college and seminary. They know that they have a calling on their lives to join us in prison ministry when they're released. We would first teach them life skills. So much has changed since they entered prison. Can you imagine never handling a smartphone? We would help them get a driver's license, open a bank account, help them to reintegrate into society. While they're at the Lair, they would help with ground maintenance and daily chores. We would train them in presenting the gospel, sharing their testimonies, do's and don'ts of prison volunteerism. Then we would teach them all the aspects of doing what we do. Prison ministry is much more than showing up at prison and preaching. When we feel like they're ready, we will send them out in teams of 2 into the prisons to carry on the ChristSong model. We've been praying about this for 13 years, looking for property and waiting for God's plan and provision. We're a small ministry. We don't have funds for a place like this, but we know that when God gives you a mission, He always provides. In June, we found the Davis Springs property in Unicoi, Tennessee. This was the 7th property we considered. Our son Jim, who's in real estate, was driving by and saw it. He showed it to us, and as soon as we drove onto the property, we felt God's peace. We knew that it was a place that had been prayed over and that God's ministry had been done there. It turns out that it's owned by the Jack Davis Foundation. Mr. Davis had set aside 40 acres with the stipulation that it was never to be sold. He wanted it to be used for ministry. His father had built a chapel and a gazebo with a pulpit for camp meetings. There's a kitchen and bathrooms. It was built in the 1930s. The buildings are still there, but they need a lot of work. The foundation's board of directors has agreed to give us a long-term lease for 30 years, and all we must pay is the property taxes. I see God's fingerprints all over this. There's a house on the adjoining property that our son is going to buy and then donate for the use of staff housing. It too needs work, but it will be perfect for our purposes. ChristSong Ministries has always been supported by a few churches and individuals who believe in prison ministry and serving the incarcerated church. But this is much bigger. We realized that we needed to reach out for help. We need you. Your donations will be used for renovation of the chapel. When it's finished, we will operate as a community church welcoming all, especially those who may feel uncomfortable in conventional churches. We'll remodel the kitchen and bathrooms. The house needs roofing and siding to make it livable for the staff. We need tiny houses for the men to live in. We want them each to have their own space, their own bathroom door they can shut. We want to give them back their dignity. These are the physical ways you would be helping, but consider this. You would be helping returning citizens who have served their debt to society find a place and purpose for their lives. You would help a prolific ministry grow and send out teams that will, in turn, help others change and become the men God's called them to be. The ripple effect could be tremendous. Families will be affected. Children who might have followed their parents to prison will instead follow Christ and have a good life. Would you join us in this prayer? We're praying that the Lord would use us and this property to help change lives, to to disciple men, give them a purpose in our effort to spread the gospel and give people hope. If he can do it for Bobby McGee, he can do it for them.